Your self-image frames your potential for success in every area of life, from your career to your love life. If you see yourself as inadequate, it frames the level of achievement that you will allow yourself to have. Yet for some reason, we set ourselves up for failure from the very start. Nobody's perfect, isn't that what we say? For some reason, we see ourselves as flawed in nearly every way, always striving to reach some vague state of betterment that would finally make us worthy of esteem and consideration, and ultimately something that might finally make us worthy of love and happiness. Perfectionism is the tendency to set high, often unrealistic standards for ourselves, to strive for flawlessness in nearly every aspect of life. Ironically, this very tendency is the thing that gets in the way of us living our best life. Striving for excellence might sound like it's positive, maybe motivating, but the resulting perfectionism is detrimental and produces the exact opposite effect. It leads to procrastination because we're afraid of making mistakes and not living up to our own impossibly high standards. It's precisely because we see ourselves as so inadequate, so not enough, that we may not even allow ourselves to try. Perfectionism stifles creativity and limits the opportunities for growth and innovation. Taking risks and trying new things is the very hallmark of creativity. But you can't do that when you're afraid of making mistakes. So much potential has been lost to perfectionism. It is the cause of so much anxiety and stress. We turn ourselves into wrecks from stress-related illnesses because of our own unrealistic standards for ourselves. The constant worry of not meeting our own and the perceived expectations of others take a heavy toll on our body and our minds. It leads to burnout and mental health problems. Finally, perfectionism actually ruins relationships. People who are perfectionists tend to be very self-critical and harsh on themselves when they make a mistake or fall short of their own expectations. This leads to feelings of inadequacy and low self-esteem, which in turn will damage a relationship or prevent them from ever forming. Perfectionists tend to hold others to the same high standards they set for themselves, which can lead to unrealistic expectations and strained relationships. In this way, perfectionism is the direct contributor to loneliness. I can't tell you how often a client has said to me, "No, I'm not ready for a relationship. I mean, who'd want me this way?" I live in Los Angeles, and it's a very crowded place. When I see all the many people, I'm struck by one beautiful thing though. Not one of them is like any other. As funny looking as some may appear, each of them is completely different from anybody else. We never give it much thought, but isn't it pretty amazing that out of more than 8 billion people, there's not one who is exactly like someone else? Each of us is an exclusive package made up of our strengths and weaknesses. And I think this is where our thinking often goes off the rails. We see our weaknesses as flaws, something that needs improvement, when in reality, these are simply the areas that are just not important for our particular purpose. Not everyone has to be good at everything. Not everyone has to be good at numbers. Not everyone has to write well or make great art. Everybody has something that makes them uniquely suited to whom they are. The key is to figure out what it is that makes you happiest, because that's likely the highest form of your expression. That's where all your strengths come to bear. When we compare ourselves to others, we're necessarily comparing apples to oranges. In reality, however, we're quite beyond compare. I mean, against whom would you measure your particular package, and why? Each of us is distinctive, inimitable, and matchless. Unique things don't match up with other unique things. That's what makes them unique. So here's my brand new proposal. What if, instead of seeing ourselves as flawed, imperfect, and in need of repair, we recognized ourselves as absolutely perfect, exactly the way we are? What if you looked in the mirror and instead of criticizing what you saw, you realized that it was perfect? It's your standard of perfection. It is your flawless. Now, whether you like it or not, those are the cards that you were dealt. And you have no choice but to play them. So why would you tear yourself down? Why would you put yourself at a disadvantage? What if we celebrated our strengths and uniqueness instead of working against ourselves by focusing on our perceived weakness? What if we accepted and embraced our unique qualities and our intrinsic perfection? Yes, I say perfection. It can only lead to self-confidence, self-esteem, and overall well-being. Most of all, it expands the framework of our potential, which in turn allows us to reach for higher and more fulfilling lives. Ultimately, it is necessary to appreciate yourself in this way in order to find the love of your life. You simply cannot experience life beyond the framework of your beliefs. As long as you view yourself as flawed, this view becomes your status quo, and you will not allow yourself to experience the fulfillment that you secretly crave. It will remain a barrier to a successful life, as well as a successful relationship. In the list method, we need you to take an appreciative personal inventory of your needs and desires, of your values and standards, and what your ideal life would look like, so that you can come up with a list of who would be your perfect mate. You will not allow yourself to experience your best possible outcome as long as you see yourself as flawed and undeserving. You simply won't be able to reach for it. So ditch the perfectionism and remind yourself that you are absolutely beyond compare. And then begin to celebrate all the many things that you do so very well.